Hi, my name is Chad Mackay. I'm the CEO of Fire and Vine Hospitality. It started with my dad back in 1996 with the El Gaucho in Seattle in Belltown. My dad, when he shut down that one restaurant, did not go bankrupt, but basically broke them. But he paid everybody off, every vendor. When dad was like, you know what, we can get through that. Probably it's okay to run the company now. Is how do you become a people builder and have an organization that builds people? Incredible people, great culture. At the end of the day, yeah, you can build these beautiful restaurants, but if you don't have the right people running them, working them, being in them. My wife would ask me someday, she's like, how do you get up? I said, honey, because nobody else will. We're going to use technology behind the scenes to inform us about people and make sure we know who's coming in, who has anniversaries. But nothing is going to replace the human touch and the human experience, because at the end of the day, that's all we got.
Hi, welcome to Restrocast. Today my guest is Chad Mackay. He's the CEO at Fire and Wine Hospitality. This was a great conversation because, you know, in the business of hospitality, and especially restaurants, the world is ruthless. There's a fight for margins, there's a fight for sales, there's a fight for survival. There's restaurateurs, operators talking about automation, processes, but very few in this world are, still talking about people on both sides. People who work with them, who make those restaurants, who run those restaurants, as well as people who come in, the guests. And what I believe Chad embodies, in his speak as well as in his business, is they really take care, that extra special care, what they have demonstrated for their guests over years, and for the people who have been with them for 10 to 25 years. That is quite inspiring and great to listen to. Do watch. Welcome to Restrocast. So Chad, welcome to Restrocast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
When we were discussing this, I talked about my thesis that people don't, enter restaurant industry, unless they are insane. And they definitely don't continue unless they love this insanity. What's your story? How did you get in to the restaurant space, and what were early years like?
Well, I got into the restaurant space because my dad managed restaurants all over town, some of the best restaurants in Seattle. And I would work at them as a busser, dishwasher. So I had early experiences. And then he had a restaurant out in a small suburb, and it got flooded twice. And we got to deal with FEMA and flood insurance. And after the second time, he sold the restaurant, kind of wrapped that up, went back to work for somebody else. And at that point, I was like, I am never going to work in restaurants again. And so I left. I went to Seattle University, got my accounting.
What were you doing then? Like you were...
So at that point, I was a sous chef. So I'd actually worked way up through the line, working sous chef. So that was really about till my 20s, at 20. So really knew the back of the house very well, loved it, loved cooking, loved working hard. But seeing the destruction that can occur in wiping out a family, I was like, I am never going to work in a restaurant again. So then I ventured off, got an accounting degree. So I went to Seattle University, got my business degree, majored in accounting, had an opportunity to work at Arthur Andersen. Long ago, I'm aging myself now, or 30 years ago, and got into the consulting practice. And so had a great...
But your dad was still running the restaurant.
He was back working for others and running some great restaurants. And then eventually opened a restaurant in 96 called Flying Fish. It was just an absolute hit. And then the next one was El Gaucho. And I'll come back and talk about involvement on those. And so I got my accounting degree, went for Arthur Andersen. I did ERP implementations, Lawson Financials, Oracle manufacturing for aerospace companies, distribution, software packages. Continued my journey, went off and took a couple startups, A couple I forget. They were like, contract positions. It was the .com crazy time. And then did a stint at Onyx Software on CRM. And then finally ended up in consulting sales. And my last project, we had about 140 consultants that built out the one of the 5G billing systems for one of the big wireless companies. So had a great time.
5G billing systems for, was it a global company?
I mean, the 3G billing back then. Sorry, that's what, yep. So the 3G billing systems. And then I didn't like the company I worked for. I loved the sales. I loved doing it all, but the culture was not what I wanted it to be. And I approached my dad, who's I've been thinking about launching my own consulting firm, and just said, hey, if you've ever thought of this business as a family business, we should talk, because otherwise I'm going to launch a firm and then I'll be down, a pathway. And he said, I've always wanted one of you kids to be involved. This is a tough business and I was never going to ask. And so I said, well, let's talk. We had a business coach, a family business coach that my dad had worked with, with Vistage. And so we sat down together. We talked about what success looked like, but more importantly, what did failure look like? And how would we manage that failure if either I didn't perform or he didn't perform or the restaurants didn't perform? And then we brought in our wives, because this is a family deal. We need them on board. And it was a great experience. So we decided we'd give each other each a year. And at the end of that year, either of us could say, this isn't going to work. And there would be no hard feelings. I was still young. I could start up, do what I wanted to do. And I never looked back.
That's a very interesting thing, that family business coach dynamic. Does that happen often? Do you see people engaging that, somebody like that proactively even now?
Because I hang out in groups like Vistage more so than maybe actually happens. Because I think it's, at the end of the day, we still want to have Thanksgiving together. So if it doesn't work, how do we make sure that happens? Because that's more important than the business.
But to have that kind of, wisdom, you're talking about back in 96 or...
Yeah. This was 2000, was 2024, right?
2004.
2004, yeah.
So your what you're saying is your accounting career and your up until your consulting was 93 to 2004?
Yeah. So I think part of it was my dad always had a coach. And so he had been a long time Vistage tech member. And saw the value in learning from other people and getting, surrounding yourself with a coach and getting better. And I continue it to this day. So
I'm going to circle back on that.
Yeah.
So you gave each other a year.
Yep.
And how did that go? So back to the restaurant business.
It was fantastic. I mean, it was definitely kind of drinking from a water hose, relearning stuff, seeing what we had, understanding our business, starting on the floor and doing floor management, things like that to really understand the business. I kind of going back on both Flying Fish and the El Gaucho, when my dad had put together, that was newly formed when they did that, the LLCs in Washington State. And so the limited, private placement offering was a new deal. So I built his spreadsheets, his financial models, so that he's like, okay, what I need to do is build me a spreadsheet so that if I change counts or check averages or hours, it'll produce a 5-year summary and ROI stuff, right? So I built that spreadsheet for him, and then he used that for his investor packages. We still have that spreadsheet today. It's actually was a pretty good one. So I was intimately involved in the financial side of just helping him as he was growing his business while I was working in consulting. And so, the year went by and I was like, never looked back. People asked me, because I was, traveling like crazy on the consulting route, all these different, fun places and companies. And I'm like, the restaurant business is a fun business. It's super complicated. We take all of these raw materials in, we transform them in a day or two, right? Shoot it all back out. We do it almost entirely with people. right? We have massive inventory turnovers and control systems, and yet we can't track it all. And so I love the business is there's enough complexity in the business to always keep you learning. And at the end of the day, I'm not selling something nobody wants, right? Like basically my dad always said, people are generally coming in to have a good time. So just don't get in their way.
Yeah. True that. True that. Absolutely. It's a business where people really want to spend with you. How did you divide your responsibilities with your dad?
So originally I was kind of put in charge of business operations. So really took over the finance, IT systems, just generally that side, like don't mess up the restaurants, learn a little bit before you get in there. So that was pretty easy, deal with the bankers. And so that started that process. And then how do we do standardization and additional training and things like that? So just worked way in. And then as we opened a couple of places, got to learn the architecture, the iterative design process, the design build, which you could do back then, and not have everything engineered prior. But anyway, that's another deal.
So give me a view of the business today, and then we'll come back on this.
Yeah. So today we basically have 11 operations. We operate in Washington, Oregon. Mm-hmm. We have our flagship is El Gaucho, so it's a high-end steakhouse. Mm-hmm. We do tableside service, kind of old school. So Caesar salad, Chateaubriand, bananas Foster, kind of fun, right? Makes it exciting. We have Aqua by El Gaucho, that's our seafood concept out on the water. Heirloom, which is a farm to table concept. And then we have Wall Steak Company in Wall and Woodville, which is more Blue Jean Steakhouse, a little more approachable, but still high quality, great service, nice touches. And then Witness Tree Lounge, which is a rooftop bar at the Indigo Hotel.
So almost all 11 are different concepts?
5 are the same of El Gaucho. 2 are Steakos. And then everything else is individual.
And, this is from 2004 to 2025. So over the last 21 years.
Yep.
And these are all company owned?
Yeah. Then we have some investor mix. Oh, and then we actually are part of a project called Yellowhawk Resort, which is an 83-acre winery and resort that we're developing, or part of the development on, that we should start breaking ground this year on the hospitality.
But when you have investors, you're still operating the restaurants yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's made primarily family owned and family driven.
And how did back to your 2004, from 2004 to, I saw that in 2013, you took over as the CEO.
Yep.
What did that mean? And what was your journey from 2004 to 2013?
So my journey, you don't have success without some failures. And we had a couple of restaurants that we opened and had to close as we tried different concepts and things. And so I think, but as my wife reminds me, she goes, "You remember what you said? You said, honey, with a deal this good, we can't lose." And that was an Italian restaurant, and we did lose, but we have the courage to finally shut it down and go, all right, that didn't work. And then we have one in Tacoma that didn't work, called Sea Grill. But then we started to say, hey, let's just really build on what we do well. So let's go back, relook at, make sure we're executing on El Gaucho, creating opportunities. We had an opportunity to open in Bellevue, Washington, which is kind of home of a lot of the tech companies, a lot of financial companies. And so that was a big project. That was a 14,000 square foot restaurant with mezzanine, some outdoor. And that was fully mine to get designed with the architect, construct it, everything. And a couple little things happened. Lehman Brothers collapsed, and kind of the financial markets went into an uproar. Our business overall dropped 40%. I'm in the middle of building out a restaurant. My bank cuts our line, and we have to go into a crisis mode of how do we get this thing finished while still owing people and our business being gutted. And so we spent a lot of time on cash flow management, on kind of breaking out my old playbooks that I had seen from my Arthur days. And we weathered through that storm. We actually, our contractor finished the project even though we didn't have the cash. We got the cash. We did a couple of backflips and tricks, and had a guy that really wanted to be an investor in our Portland restaurant. So we flipped him a unit. He provided his signature guarantee. Everybody walked away fully whole and clean. So we gained a lot of respect in the industry when other people's got stiffed. And that's a lifelong lesson. My dad, when he shut down that one restaurant after those floodings, did not go bankrupt, but basically broke them. But he paid everybody off, every vendor, and one of the largest seafood companies in the world was out of Seattle, called Pacific Seafood. And Ike Alhadaf, he's passed away now, but he said, your dad paid everybody, and that goes a long way in this industry. Like, forever, you guys have credit.
Wow, that's
yeah. So after that 08, 09 cycle, I think that was when Dad was like, you know what, if we can get through that, probably it's okay to run the company now. So he moved to Walla Walla, built himself a beautiful home there on 80 acres up on the hills.
Oh, wow.
And then he ended up buying a couple of buildings, and we started a couple more steakhouses.
Got it. I think one of the things that you said is quite underrated, and I see that in the business, not only in the restaurant. I think almost every possible business, which is as an entrepreneur, you really are chasing excitement. You want to do new projects, groundbreaking stuff, something that you haven't done before, because that's your dope. But at the same time, it's really underrated that just repeating what you know really well, might sound boring, but that's purely like that. That's one of the hardest lessons that I've seen in the business. Watching others and my own experience, that boring is good, boring is great, excitement is dangerous. You should have
a little injection.
Yes, exactly, right. So if business is not all excitement. If you're chasing excitement, well, you high chances you get wrecked.
And you can redirect that excitement into something that's even more fantastic and actually has a bigger impact. And that is, how do you become a people builder and have an organization that builds people? Incredible people, great culture, because that is, at the end of the day, you can build these beautiful restaurants, but if you don't have the right people running them, working them, being in them, and I'll say this, when my dad retired, or kind of, people would ask him, do you miss the restaurants? Do you miss all the customers and the action? He's like, no, I did that for 50 years. He goes, I miss our people. I miss getting to see them have kids and buy homes. And there's a great pleasure in knowing, like, look at all these people you've impacted. So you don't have to build everything new. You don't have to chase exciting new things. Maybe exciting enough is building incredible new people.
But, on that repeatability, today, are you conscious about that? What part of the business you actually want it to be repeatable? And are you the guy who continues to do that, or you hand it over to somebody who's good at reputation and you are the disruptor? Like, what's your role?
So my role, I'm really have been spending time with the president of my company, Cooper Mills, and he has been with us 17 years. So he's ran different restaurants, opened stuff for us. And what I've been doing now the last 3 years, is teaching him everything I know, like my dad taught me, about everything that he didn't get to see. So everything from, like, we got to look at 100 opportunities to find one good one, right? Like, what does that look like in my day, going through those things and seeing sites and talking about how do we put deals together. And so he's been going through that process. So we're just finishing one for an expansion into a new market. It's not done yet, so I don't know when this is coming out. So and so my role is really to help develop him, round out that side, continue to push the company. But we've got awesome operations teams. We've got just a great culture operations person as well. So we've got the fix-it person. We've got the culture person when things, just need that extra little soft touch, and she's just so good at accelerating the teams. Got an awesome sales strategy director. Like, how do you go and how do we pump, and get, like, she sent me a text this morning. We've got an 800 person buyout on July 7th at one of our restaurants. like fantastic. 4th of July, great. Like,
Yeah, that's
$100,000 piece of business is like, so I'm surrounded by incredible people. I just try to stay out of their way. I tell them I need to make sure we've got the finances to make sure we can continue to run these restaurants and grow. And then let's go find a couple of opportunities every now and then. So that's what I've been doing.
What was the most difficult or scary part of taking reins from your father in 2013?
At that point, the fear was not there. The fear was in 2008. Talk about fear of having your bank cut off your financing. Nobody's going to lend you money. Your business is tanked. I was 35 or something. So I could start over pretty easy, but my dad's now 82. And so having him start over at 70, not an option.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, my wife would ask me someday, she's like, how do you get up? I said, honey, because nobody else will. Right. And I cannot have my dad start over. I saw what that looked like. And that was, 30 years prior. So after that, even the COVID thing, it was like, all right, like, okay, this sucks, but we're going to, reinvent and do things. So I don't have a lot of fears like that anymore. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm not scared. Doesn't mean I don't lose sleep. That I've been through enough that it's like, all right, we'll get through this. Let's go back to first principles. Let's go back to what makes us successful. Let's not lose sight on those things, and we'll just drive forward and we'll work our way out of it.
There's a lot of talk in the world, and it has always been there about, and I'm going to, flirt a little bit with technology piece as well here, that, guest experience needs to be improved and guest experience needs to be a certain way. And, at times people trivialize it by saying, oh, okay, let's get a good loyalty program, or just let's get a good feedback system, etc., which are technically just the tools and not really, how the guest experience is going to improve. And given that you're running these 11 concepts, which are all fine dine, high end, customer service, guest experience is at the core, at the heart of what you're doing. Only second to food, or I don't know if you count it even higher than food. What's the mantra? What's your how do you guys do that?
So we have something we call our credo, and it starts with our purpose, which is we revel in celebrating life. And so, like, that's just right out of the gate. We are about that. And so you start there. We have some decision criteria that we use. Is it great for the guests? Is it great for our team? And is it financially sustainable? And using those decision criteria, if it's yes to all of them, you probably have just got a green light to go.
How do you imbibe the first one in your team who's guest facing? I mean, it's how are they how's the guest experiencing that space? Something
like that. So let's say down our Tacoma location, we're by JBLM. So it's a big Air Force and Army base. Marines are out there as well. So somebody comes in, we find out somebody's shipping out, right? They're having their last dinner together. Server's talking with them. They'll come up to one of the captains and go, these guys are shipping out. We need to buy their dinner. And that's it. They don't have to call anybody. They don't have to go. They have to justify. They don't have to worry they're going to get yelled at.
Wow.
They do something incredible. It's memorable. It's personal and touching for everybody. Like, the staff loves to be able to do that kind of stuff. So that'd be just like a little example of taking care of something, and being able to celebrate somebody's life. We love engagements. Like, we get all involved in the engagement, and I don't even know how we got these things, but we own a bunch of cricket machines, and they're these printing machines that have high, really intricate laser cutting. And so we personalize glasses, we print menus, we make baby onesies, right? So when we find out somebody's going to have a baby, one of our customers will make little baby onesies.
You have all these things in-house?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's like, and it's totally stolen from Will Gadara, right? The dream catcher or whatever. We're like, well, that's a great idea. One of our captains in every location, their whole job is, to pick a couple of people out and do some wows. So we had a new police chief that came in, and the old police chiefs brought him in, and we had his picture and the announcement embedded in the menu, kind of in a 3D deal.
Whose job is that? I mean, this is great, right? And I think it's providing that sort of agency to your people to not only find out but do something about it. And I'm sure there's a method to the madness, given that you have these machines and you're serious about it, right?
Yeah.
So of course they know. But how do you imbibe that? How do you bring that sort of agency to your people?
So I think first of all, it starts the restaurant itself is the P&L. It's the generator of business, right? So corporate is not the generator of business. And so the restaurants are structured in a way that GM and chef are working together to drive revenue and profitability. They're assembling teams, developing teams, and they have P&L authority and responsibility for almost everything. So if they need to make an adjustment, they don't have to run our labor model because their restaurant might be a little bit different. They'll run a labor model. It's in this instance with the captains, basically that are making memories happen. There's one person assigned, and that's their job. So they're not running the wine program. They're actually running, and your job is to make tables feel really special. You can't do every single one, but we could do a lot of them. And that's part of their job. We pay them for it.
That is awesome, man.
And then we share the stories. And then, I mean, it's contagious because once you start doing that kind of stuff, people are like crying and they're like, oh my God, this is so great. You're like, oh my God, how easy was that? So yeah, we're old school in the sense of we're going to use technology behind the scenes to inform us about people and make sure we know who's coming in and who has anniversaries. But nothing is going to replace the human touch and the human experience, because at the end of the day, that's all we got.
Let's go deeper on the tech piece. Still tech is kind of taking center stage in the restaurant business. Not as much in fine dining yet, but I think the pressure is there, continuously building, systems are changing.
Yeah.
And you got to invest in some of this tech, early. You talked about that, So I know that you're pro tech, but what's your current take on technology in the restaurants? What are you looking at?
So yeah, for us, our approach is we want to be very tech savvy and tech enabled while not pushing it in front of the guest. So we want that to be when it's time. So you're not going to see robots, clearing stuff. You're not going to see a wine list on a pad, right? Like, I'm not there, right? And maybe there'll be a time when everybody's there and they don't want any humans, and then I'm out of this business.
Is that true, or is it just the sentiment right now?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh no, no. Why would we want to be in a business that didn't have people and experiences and other? Listen, eating is something everybody has to do every day. There's perfunctory eating because you just need to eat something, and then there's going out to a restaurant. And if the restaurants don't deliver experiences that are great and memorable and valuable for what you pay, then you're not going to go out. So our job is to make sure we create memories, create exceptional experiences, so people will come and pay for it instead of staying home.
Chad, how are you as a leader? What is it? What's the cheat sheet, or what do you tell people who work with you, report, to you? How do you come across as a leader according to you?
I think our general is to only be directive when it's absolutely necessary. The rest of the time, it's really a servant-based leadership, a consultative-based leadership. I care very much about outcomes. I don't need to micromanage every little detail of what is happening. I want people to, we use traction, so I want one-to-ones and rocks and those types of things. So we have action and accountability. Move it forward. Just move it forward, right? I think I'm fairly hands-off on those things, but we'll jump in on some details if I see stuff that got missed. I care exceptionally about our people, and I think that they would say that.
And what has changed? What has evolved over the last 10 years, let's say, for you? What are 3 things that you feel that they were different 10 years back?
I think I was more, I had to do it. Right? I mean, this is the evolution of, well, hopefully of adults, right? You think you have to do everything, and then you're too much in. You're actually the problem that why stuff's not getting done. So I would spread myself too far and then end up being the impediment to actually getting the stuff done. And so really started to look at that more and go, okay, who's my key employee? Who do I need to develop? When I promoted up Cooper to be president, that was a big shift to go, okay, I'm going to coach him. I'm going to give him direct observation and feedback so that he can work with the teams, so that I'm not just, injecting myself at every level. So even though I think I'm a nice person, sometimes I scare some of the employees, that are new and, haven't experienced me. And I feel much more relaxed in the ability to continue to grow the group and let the next level of leadership really blossom and develop. And then we got a whole nother leadership level that's percolating in the restaurants that is exceptional. I'm like, because we had to go down and hire younger, and man, have they delivered. I'm really excited about
what's the tenure, like for these people who you're talking about.
So I mean, a lot of our team is 10 to 25 years.
Beautiful.
So my chef in Gaucho Tacoma, which actually now one of our biggest producers, volume of both revenue and profitability, he started as a dishwasher almost 28 years ago for my dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And he's the head chef?
Yep.
Wow.
At Tacoma, little $8 million 5-night-a-week restaurant.
Yeah.
He kills it. He does awesome.
Yeah,
and he's had an incredible life, incredible family, and we've been a part of that.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
What do you do for enrichment? How do you keep yourself, enriched, or what do you do?
Well, I've got an amazing wife. My wife, Jenny. We've been married. We are coming on 27 years. Been together 30. We have 2 kids. One's Elliot is a sophomore at Boise State. And then my youngest, Owen, is a junior at a little Catholic high school in Seattle. So, kids kind of keep you grounded, and a wife that kind of makes sure that stuff gets prioritized. I do have a story about our first child and my wife. I was down in Gaucho Tacoma running it. We had a changeover in a GM, and I needed to be down there, so I was running it. And I came home one night, and she's like, "Hey, it'd really be great if you were here for when I give birth." And she's like, "But you know what? That's okay. I can just be a well-financed single mom." And I was like, "Oh my God, it just hit me." And then that was it. I figured out okay, let's get the GM in. I don't need to save this thing. It's actually saving itself already. And so she's helped create great priority. And she's wicked smart. She's got her, she's philosophy major. She's got her JD, and then she has a master's in tax law.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And she's even got a bartender degree too.
Perfect. Right.
when she was in college, bartending academy.
So she just made sure that all living aspects of your life, she knows all of them, so that you can't really, know it all.
No, we've had a great love affair and relationship, and yeah, that's been awesome.
Where did you meet her?
I met her through my cousin, and her brother were dating, and we met a couple different trips, and then one time we were both single. I asked her out for a date. She said, "I'm busy." I asked her out again. She said, "I'm busy." I asked her out again. She said, "I'm busy." And I'm like, "Are you ever going to go out on a date with me?" I was 23. I thought it was pretty hot. And she's like, "Are you ever going to ask me on a date?" Apparently I was asking her to go river rafting with a bunch of friends, and and I said, "Touche." We went out for dinner anyway.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So we do a lot of hiking. Her family has property up in the San Juan Islands, which is a beautiful area north of Seattle, up by Canada. So we spent a lot of time out there with yurts and beautiful beach, just hanging out. Private pilot, got my license in 2001.
Awesome.
So I've been flying since 2001, and we do a lot lot of backcountry flying.
That's something camping. that's on my list.
Yeah,
I want to do a PPL.
I love it. It's such a great, because you're so concentrated on it, it actually fleshes your mind of all the noise. It's just you and the plane and navigation and the radio, and then this beautiful view out there. And so it's a very calming. I just love it because it really does. It just dumps all that extra noise that you got going on all the time.
What are you flying?
I fly it's called a Bush Hawk. So it's a 5-seater tailwheel bush plane. So it's quite the hardy little thing. It's like a SUV of the sky. So I can pack it up with firewood and cooking gear, and we'll go out camping out in the ocean. There's some campgrounds, or fly up into Idaho, has some backcountry camping. That's awesome. And it's just beautiful.
That sounds amazing.
And it's just it's a whole nother knowledge set to get your mind activated at a whole different level. So like reading the maps, they're all 3D, but they're 2D, right? So it's just cool. I don't know. I've always loved it.
Yeah, you're doing that since 2001?
Yeah.
So you started when you were still in your consulting career?
In my sales, not the consulting, when I was in sales, because I had more time.
Okay. Yeah, sales.
I was doing very well in sales. How's that?
What is one thing that you would want to change about you, or you're working on changing about how you think or what you do?
Trying to be way more present for the family when I'm with family. And that's trying to get off of devices, get off of emails, just trying to have a lot more room. We've spent a lot of time doing traveling and stuff, but I also need on the day-to-day to be more present, and I've been working on that.
But does that, and this is, I feel at times that, people in the family, everybody else in their own way is also dealing with exactly the same thing, right? They're also not present. They're also on their phones.
Oh yeah. Well, having a 17-year-old boy, yeah, the device is definitely, it's like, pay attention to us. So we take them out for breakfast.
Would you want your, kids to join in or be restaurateurs someday?
I think,
or not?
No, I think just like my dad, if they have interest. My older son does. He does like the business, and he's interned with us in events and sales, and he'll do more. He grew up in a family that you learned about all that stuff. It's still a hard business, right? There's no easy, but there's no easy anything unless you can help me out. I'll take easy too. My youngest son, I think he'll be on a totally different path. He's like, yeah, I'm not a restaurant. It's not his deal. He wants to build stuff. So I don't know if he's got the mind for engineer, but he also wants to build. So we're trying to see what kind of school that he might want to go to where he can do both. And so we'll see.
Do you read?
I do.
What are you reading?
What have I got right now? I've been working on basically the Winston Churchill books, going back on leadership. So finished World War I, now doing World War II. So it's a lot.
Yeah, I got a set of books which are just plain, Winston Churchill quotes.
Yep.
I think that guy was. I think he said things was just quotable.
Yeah.
All along.
Yeah. So I love history. I think there's so much for us to gain insight. Like we somehow think that, we're so advanced and everything, but it's like, we've been running the same operating system for 5,000 years. There's been no upgrade. We're on 1.0.
One book that I'll recommend and I would love to, in fact, gift that to you, is a book called Small Giants.
Okay.
Have you heard of the book?
I've heard of that, but I have not read it.
Yeah.
So you got the little goldfish on it and the.
Yeah. The same one.
Cover. Yeah.
Yeah. Bo Bellingham.
Okay.
That book, you'll totally dig because that really talks about having business with purpose and mission, and something that grows, slow and fast, big and small is relative, but it's something that grows well and, sustainably and profitably. And, there's a lot of love and purpose in that. And
love that.
Feel good. And then it has stories of some of the most iconic businesses and brands, which, I actually, while reading it, discovered that some of the brands that I used to admire, just subconsciously.
Yeah.
And turned out to be, when I read their story, I was like, whoa, I did not know about that.
Did not know the
right. For example, for me, like one big thing was, Deniware, how. So I actually discovered, I did not know before reading that book, that Shake Shack came out of Union Square Hospitality.
Yep.
And how it came out of Union Square. So I actually discovered it there. And I was quite mind blown because I used to admire Shake Shack, a lot.
That's cool.
Chad, this was great. Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
This was a great
My
conversation.
pleasure.
Absolutely inspired. I'm sure whoever is going to watch this will feel the same.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.